they're Trump Republicans, and they have weaponized assistance to Ukraine as a tool to use against Biden as we get into the presidential campaign. So it's not so much that they don't like Ukraine or they love Russia, although they do seem to favor Putin a little bit. But it's really the idea of let's give Biden a defeat here. Let's hold back on assistance to Ukraine. Let's make it really hard and try to weaken him as he gets into the presidential campaign season.
I'm now going to cross the Atlantic and say hello to Jim Townsend, who's a former Deputy Secretary of Defense for Europe and NATO under President Obama and President Biden. Hello to you, Jim.
Hello there. How are you?
I'm well, Jim. Thank you for coming along. Tell me, we saw Volodymyr Zelensky in talks with Joe Biden last night at the White House. Is it overstating it to say there was something of an edge of alarm or even desperation about that meeting?
Well, I think you could certainly describe it in those kinds of terms. It was a quick meeting. It was a quick trip, rather, a quick decision, surprising a lot of people that he was even in town. I think the situation had reached such a stage on the Hill in our Congress that that the president felt that we needed to get Zelensky over here right now to make the case, to try to add his voice, to this argument. And so, in American football terms, it was almost like a Hail Mary. We'll have to see if it worked.
So, look, is Joe Biden as committed to supporting Ukraine as he ever was? And to what extent are his hands tied by his difficulties dealing with Congress?
Well, a little bit of both. I mean, for sure, he is committed, completely committed to Ukraine. I think if he had it his way, we would have a steady, consistent flow of assistance going to Ukraine. This would be something that Ukraine could depend on. And at one point, certainly last year, that's the way it was. But now his hands are tied in the sense that Congress, and particularly the House of Representatives, controls the funding. They control the purse strings, as they say. And so as much as the president might want that, it's going to be up to the House of Representatives to vote a bill, for the Senate to agree, and then for the president to sign it. And if they cannot get a bill to the floor of the House, then we're not going to see assistance coming. And that's the bottleneck, is the extremists in the U.S. House of Representatives, these Republicans. They have enough votes so that they can choke off a bill even reaching the floor, and that certainly does tie the hands of the president.
That is, well, surely potentially catastrophic for Ukraine. Tell me, Jim, what is the state of U.S. public opinion on support for Ukraine?
Well, I think that's one of the frustrating things, is that the U.S. Opinion about Ukraine in the United States is at least in the 65% range in favor of helping Ukraine. So, and there's a bit of a bipartisanship to that as well. This isn't just the Democrats saying this. It's not unusual to travel about the country and see Republicans and Democrats wanting to help Ukraine. But what's happened is there's a minority of Republicans as represented in the House that are the so-called MAGA Republicans. They're Trump Republicans, and they have weaponized assistance to Ukraine as a tool to use against Biden as we get into the presidential campaign. So it's not so much that they don't like Ukraine or they love Russia, although they do seem to favor Putin a little bit. But it's really the idea of let's give Biden a defeat here. Let's hold back on assistance to Ukraine. Let's make it really hard and try to weaken him as he gets into the presidential campaign season.
It is in some ways difficult for someone of my generation to comprehend. I grew up in a world, Jim, where Russia was seen as a defining threat for the United States and its Western allies, including the United Kingdom, and especially, of course, during the Cold War. Now we look at a world and at America where some on the far right in America, well, they don't take that view, and some are, as you say, openly sympathetic to Putin. How did we get here?
You know, I don't know. Well, there are some good books, I think, that have just been published that I haven't read yet. I might be able to give you a better answer later, but that is something that has been quite remarked on, because the Republican Party in the United States has traditionally been the party that's been very conservative, particularly on military defense issues, very anti-Soviet Union. This is the party of Ronald Reagan, putting the Soviet Union on the ash bin of history. This is the party of George W. Bush, of Eisenhower. I mean, this is the party that has had very strong very strong support for military issues and concerns about Russia. Seeing them flip like this shows you a problem that certainly Trump has taken advantage of, and they have been able to give support to a base of about 35% of Americans who love Trump. And they probably don't have much of a view on Ukraine. But if Trump and his people are against assistance to Ukraine, then they will fall right in line, no matter what they might think about the issue itself.
Fascinating to get your perspective, Jim. Thank you. Jim Townsend, the former Deputy Secretary of Defense for Europe and NATO under Presidents Obama and Biden.